Snow Patrol. What's going on?
You tell me. I'm guessing it's not a coincidence that we're left here with nothing to do for the next few hours.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Icicle Flash episode video. There were so many Easter eggs and so many ice puns. The ice puns were over 9,000. There's a new round of that Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a Flash-related comment on the video. I'll name a new winner at the end of this, but obviously spoiler warning for the episode if you haven't seen it yet. So starting with number 10, we get a big Zoom shout out in Jitters when Cicada's getting ready to kill that metahuman. That's just them foreshadowing Zoom coming back during the 100th episode. We learned that the premise of that episode is that Barry's going to be traveling back in time because he needs to get something to fight Cicada. So that just explains the mechanics of how they bring Zoom back on the TV show without him being the Black Flash or him being dead because he was killed at the end of season 3. The woman that he takes down at the beginning of the episode 2 is really more of a T-1000 Terminator reference just because she turns her hand into giant blades like the T-1000. They make a Johnny Cage reference from Mortal Kombat because of his finishing move. Cisco makes a joke about Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman when he's talking about Caitlin. They made a Snow Patrol reference, but 9, they go to Caitlin's father's lab and she's reunited with him for the first time. So they remind you a little bit about his backstory. He supposedly had very severe ALS, so they don't know if he can move, but he's walking around like a normal human, and they play all this creepy music in the background, and they make a reference about it being a very creepy looking lab. What kind of science do they do here? I have no idea. You start to notice some fishy things in the background. There's a special cryo chamber. He explains the mechanism by which he cured his ALS. And number 8 reveals that he's been in contact with several cold-based DC Comics villains these past 5 years that the TV show has been running. So if it wasn't clear, he's been in this Black Ops site since before season 1. He says that it was actually Harrison Wells that led him onto it and helped hooked up the video feed at Star Labs so that he could watch what was going on but not talk to them. So that means that the Reverse Flash version of Harrison Wells sort of engineered this scenario, probably because, he comes from the future, he knows that he turns into Icicle eventually, so he wanted to help bring that about the same way that Reverse Flash wanted to create all those metahumans when the particle accelerator went off. Or at least he knew that he would be creating them because he was trying to create Barry so that he would become the Flash and he could steal his power to get back to the future. So it's just another way to tie one of the big villains that they're introducing on the show back to the Reverse Flash from season 1. So that's the version of Harrison Wells that he was talking about, if it wasn't clear. But he also says that he was in contact with Louise Lincoln, who's another version of Killer Frost from the comic. The costume that Caitlin wore during season 3 is inspired by Louise Lincoln's costume. But then he also says that he's been in contact with Victor Freeze, meaning that Mr. Freeze exists in Earth 1. So obviously, big Batman villain, that's more foreshadowing for the Batwoman crossover when they go to Gotham City. 7, the version of his origin story that he explains is Icicle's origin story and Icicle Jr. What happened is the original version of Icicle debuted in 1947 during the golden age of comics. He used a cold gun. He used it so much that it modified his DNA, and when his son was born, Icicle Jr., he was born with ice-based powers and didn't need to use a gun. So they're kind of doing the Icicle Jr. origin story with these characters. But her father explains that the cryostasis treatment that he was giving himself was what created this alternate person. Although he's lying about the alternate personality, it does the same thing to Killer Frost. When he treated her with a slightly modified version of his serum, that's what created the alternate personality, the Killer Frost side of herself. Brief interlude for Cicada, who shows up at the hospital all messed up, but he understands that he's getting more powerful, so that's why he tells the woman not to heal him at the end. It's making me stronger. In the teaser for next week's episode, they're foreshadowing a really big battle between Team Flash and Cicada. Like I said, episode 8, the anniversary episode, the premise that causes them to go back in time is something they need to fight Cicada. So even though he's supposed to be kind of the main villain, he's kind of been a back burner storyline for now. But I think starting with next week's episode, they're focusing on the character a little bit more. 5, they have Nora try out a couple new Flash powers when they're trying to find the core of that dark matter satellite. She needed to find it at the bottom of that body of water. So after they go back and forth on how best to run on water and use that special ability, what they're doing though is they're referencing something that was referencing something else. So it gets kind of meta because they reference Iris running on water last season when she was trying to move that tidal wave around. But that in and of itself was a reference to Barry back during season 1 when he was stopping the tidal wave during the Weather Wizard episode. So it's a reference of a reference. I'm sure like as many more seasons as The Flash goes on, they'll continue to do stuff like that, where a character tries to do something from a previous season that was a reference itself to something from much, much earlier. For Pretty WTF, Cisco figures out that Icicle has been wearing a human skin suit this whole time, using stem cells, so it's very Silence of the Lambs, just walking around in a human skin suit to hide his Frost form, because he shows his skin, he looks like that all the time. I think they wanted to make it look a little more natural on the actor, because in the comics, he's like a full-blown, walking, living Icicle. They confront him, he shows his true face, takes them down immediately, and you start to see the beginnings of Killer Frost's comeback, with several more ice puns. Pretty much from here on out is all ice puns. 3, Icicle versus Team Flash. He takes them out immediately just by lowering the temperature in the room. Remember, they did this during Season 3 when Barry was battling Killer Frost after she had teamed up with Savitar. So the whole thing with Killer Frost's powers is that she actually sucks the energy, the heat energy, out of things. That's why the Flash can actually make her more powerful. They didn't use it that way in this instant, but if she needed to charge herself up, she could just suck heat energy out of either Nora or Barry as long as they were generating lightning. They actually use that for a little bit of comedy later too when Barry shocks Cisco so that he'll warm up a little bit faster. But number 2, obviously this is all building towards a Killer Frost versus Icicle fight, and you actually learn that Icicle cares about Killer Frost as if he's her true daughter. We get to be ourselves, so they're just trying to put more of a character behind Icicle instead of just making him a mustache-twirling villain. She finally figures out how to bring Killer Frost back, takes him down, so now we have Killer Frost back. The way they do her makeup in this outfit actually looks pretty good too. I don't know if they're going to give her a brand new costume or if it'll just be like this for the rest of the season, but the way they leave things at the end of the episode implies that she'll start using her powers more and more slowly as we get closer to the end of the season, so probably by the season finale, she'll have fully learned how to bring her out at will. Number 1 though, really cool twist, they actually use the mental dampener to allow Caitlin and Killer Frost to talk to each other, so the way you hear Killer Frost talking in her head like it's a voiceover, hey, we got a lot to talk about, just expect them to have some fun with that in future episodes. So like if Caitlin is having to talk to Ralph and he's saying something really douchey, you can have Killer Frost doing a Deadpool-style commentary track just making fun of him, and only Caitlin will be able to hear it, so I'm sure they'll use that for some comedy in future episodes. But when they found that dark matter satellite and hauled it into Star Labs, there was an interesting reference that they made. When they said that they were narrowing down on Cicada's location, they said that they found 2 twins that had lost their father, and I'm like, is that supposed to be a Tornado Twins reference? Because they're talking about dark matter satellite, a lightning-shaped dagger that looks like it gives off negative Speed Force energy. Like, they just haven't fully explained where they're going with this storyline ultimately. So everybody wants Tornado Twins. It just feels like they might find a way to reference them somehow on the TV show. All the Icicle stuff during the episode was great, but I think they hammed it up a little too much with Cecile. I think they tried to go way too over the top, and obviously all the Sherlock Wells stuff, but that's kind of been a thing this entire season. Even Cisco was making fun of his lame accent during the episode. So everybody just let me know if you spotted any Easter eggs that I didn't mention in the video. Like I said, ice puns from everyone, over 9,000. It was crazy. I'll do a trailer video for next week's episode tomorrow morning. Obviously, it's Thanksgiving week. There'll probably be a whole bunch of other trailers dropping for the crossover, so I'll just post everything as soon as it drops. No worries. Congratulations, Victoria Yao. You're the giveaway winner from my last big DC video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Click here to learn what's going on with the Avengers 4 trailer and the new official Marvel MCU timeline. And click here for that last big Flash, Batman, Batwoman crossover trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.